listening to the Almost Legal Podcast with Josh Ankasine.
Hey guys, welcome to the Almost Legal Podcast. This is your host, Josh Ankasine, and today on episode number 23, as promised, I'll be going through the JFK assassination and conspiracy theories involved in that. And depending on how you look at it with the document dump that was on the 26th, I kind of did a brief episode, episode number 21, on just my overall thoughts about the document release. Not really the contents, just kind of how it sketched me out, how they didn't release all of them because it would compromise national security, even though they had some pretty damning stuff in there, which I'm surprised they had that much in it. You know what I mean? Because they had the documents for, over 50 years. Let's see, if they knew there was something damning in those documents, you'd think they'd still be there. I was surprised they even put out what they did. I don't expect them to have anything in any document that's going to shine any light to any crookedness. But like everything else the government has its hands in when it's trying to cover stuff up, it's pretty obvious because you see a very, very consistent set of events that happen on some shady events in U.S. history. From, hiding documents, hiding evidence, being very, very vague with how you handle things. Just for example, the Las Vegas shooting. We still have more questions than we had when it first happened in comparison to every other thing that happened. Today's, I'm recording this on Monday. Yesterday's when the shooting at the church happened. We know everything there is to know about that shooter, his motives, why he did it, we know everything about it. And that happened 24 hours ago. It's been over a month and we still have no earthly idea what happened in the Las Vegas shootings. None. We actually know less. They came out with the initial story and it changed multiple times and they're still just being shady and shady and shady. And that's just kind of how the government works. So let's dig into the JFK conspiracy. The assassination of JFK happened on November 22nd, 1963. And this was pretty much the birth of all conspiracy theories as a whole. Of course, they had some beforehand, but this was like the holy grail of conspiracy theories. This is what every conspiracy theorist aims towards and says because they've taken polls. Like the majority of people think there's a conspiracy involved in this assassination one way or the other. And that's what I'm kind of going to go through and like show you the steps and all the people that wanted them dead and go through some documents and kind of play somewhat of a game of Clue and then wrap it up with who I think actually did it. The accusation, people included in the accusations that are involved in the assassination of JFK is the CIA, the mafia, the sitting vice president at the time, Lyndon B. Johnson, Castro, the Soviet Union or the KGB, or a combination of some of them. Most conspiracy theories claim that the U.S. government covered up crucial information in the aftermath of the assassination. In 1964, the Warren Commission concluded that Oswald was the only person responsible for the JFK assassination, which they're not much evidence. There's a bunch of evidence showing that they might have been trying to push that narrative. Like I said in the previous episode, there is documented proof that after Jack Ruby shot Lee Harvey Oswald when they were transferring from the local jail to county jail, he tried to send agents to the hospital to force a confession from him. And I quote, he said, "We have to convince the public that Lee Harvey Oswald was the only or the lone shooter in the assassination." In 1979, the United States House Select Committee on Assassinations, or the HSCA, so if I ever say HSCA through here, you know what I'm talking about, concluded that Kennedy was probably assassinated as a result of a conspiracy, although it did not identify any individuals or groups. The HSCA reasoned that a second gunman other than Oswald probably also fired at Kennedy, but acoustic evidence, which the HSCA accepted in reaching a conclusion, was later discredited by experts. Other federal and municipal investigations have been conducted, most of which support the conclusions reached in the Warren Commission report. Nonetheless, a majority of Americans polled indicated a belief in some sort of conspiracy, which goes back with the polls. And they've taken a bunch of polls through the years, and it's kind of interesting on how the numbers change. And I'll get into that later. Just a little background. Like I said, President John F. Kennedy, or Fitzgerald Kennedy, was assassinated by gunfire as he traveled in a motorcade in an open-top limousine in Dallas, Texas on Friday, November 22nd, 1963, 12:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Texas Governor John Connally was wounded during the shooting as well, but survived. Within 2 hours, Lee Harvey Oswald was arrested for the murder of Dallas policeman J.D. Tippit and arranged... murder of Dallas. Yeah. Funny about Tippit, there was actually a document, one of their informants said he was the actual person who shot JFK. And by that, I'm saying J.D. Tippit, the police officer. And if you really look into that whole series of events on how J.D. Tippit ended up being with him at the time and getting shot, it's kind of shady. It's kind of like he knew what was up, because he just showed up where he happened to be. Like, no evidence was gone. He just happened to pull up to his house. And then he ended up getting shot by some people he pulled up next to. Because I don't think... they said he got shot by a revolver, which Lee Harvey Oswald had on him. But the revolver that Lee Harvey Oswald actually had on him, the firing pin was bent and wouldn't fire. Fun fact. You can go conspiracy, whatever, but that's what it is, Shortly after 1:30 Saturday, Oswald was arraigned for murdering... I don't know, arranged. I assume that he was... whatever. He was lined up and arrested for the murder of President Kennedy as well. On Sunday, November 24th at 11:21 a.m., nightclub owner Jack Ruby fatally shot Oswald as he was being transferred from city jail to county jail. Immediately after the shooting, many people suspected that the assassination was a part of a large plot, and broadcasters speculated that the Dallas right-wingers were involved. Ruby's shooting of Oswald compound initial suspicions, which obviously, well, they think this nightclub owner, known mob affiliate, was just that patriotic and he was trying to boom, boom, boom. I guess that's what they were trying to push, but we know through interviews that there was obviously something else to it. And we'll get into that later. Among conspiracy theorists, Mark Lane has been described as writing the first literary, where was I? Okay, I'll get into the Warren Commission. In 1964, the Warren Commission concluded that Oswald acted alone and there is no credible evidence supporting the contention that he was involved in a conspiracy to assassinate the president. The commission also included that Dean Rusk, the Secretary of State, Robert S. McNamara, the Secretary of Defense, C. Douglas Dillon, and the Secretary of Treasury, Robert F. Kennedy, the Attorney General, J. Edgar Hoover, the Director of the FBI, John A. McCone, the Director of CIA, and James J. Rowley, the Chief of the Secret Service, each independently reached the same conclusion on the basis of information available to them. During the trial of Clay Shaw in 1969, however, New Orleans District Attorney Jim Garrison, who, if you've seen the movie JFK, that's who that is, challenge a single bullet theory with evidence from the Zapruder film, which took 12 years for them to release, FYI, which he claimed indicated that a fourth shot from the grassy knoll was responsible for Kennedy's fatal head wound. In 1979, the United States House Select Committee of Assassinations, HSCA, agreed that the Warren Commission that Oswald assassinated Kennedy was concluded that the commission's report and the original FBI investigation was seriously flawed, which it seriously was. Like, they didn't follow leads very well. They had, in the document dump in October, they had I think 20 something minutes before the actual assassination attempt, a British, news agency got an anonymous phone call. Got an anonymous phone call from someone basically saying, hey, something big's about to happen in the United States. Never followed up on that, including a bunch of allegations saying someone has documented proof on Lyndon B. Johnson. They never followed up on any of it. None. They failed. They failed big time on this one, and it's really frustrating because how are you going to find it out now? You know, it's too late. The last remaining documents, which were required to be released under Section 5 of the President John F. Kennedy Assassination Records Collection Act of 1992, were released on October 26, 2017, while the remaining ones still classified will only be analyzed for redactions. Which, like I said, I could only imagine what those are. But just some stupid crap. They're probably shredding them. Don't be surprised if you see something happening. They get hacked, quote unquote, and all of it goes missing. Okay, we'll get to the public opinion about this whole thing. Like I said, with the polls and whatnot. According to author John McAdams, the grandest of all conspiracy theories is the Kennedy assassination, which it clearly is. The public opinions polls have consistently shown that the majority of Americans believe there was a conspiracy theory to kill President Kennedy. However, on the question that the government covered it up, the different polls show both a minority and a majority of Americans who believe the government engaged in one. These same polls also show that there is no agreement on who else may have been involved. A 2003 Gallup poll reported that 75% of Americans do not believe that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. That same year, an ABC poll found that 70% of respondents suspected that the assassination involved more than one person. A 2004 Fox News poll found that 68% Americans thought there has been a conspiracy theory, while 74% of them thought there had been a cover-up. As recent as 2009, some 76% of people polled for CBS News said that they believe that President has been killed as a result of a conspiracy. A Gallup poll released in 2013 found that 61% of Americans, the lowest figure in nearly 50 years, believe that others beside Oswald were involved. So as you say, through the years, it really hasn't changed, and mysteries just come up more and 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 more. Mainly because of lack of evidence, either legitimately not having the evidence or they covered it up. You know, there's been numerous researchers included like Mark Lane, Henry Hurt, Michael L. Kurtz, General McKnight, Anthony Summers, Harold Weisberg, and others pointed out the characterized inconsistency, oversights, exclusions of evidence, errors, changing of stories, changes the minds of eyewitnesses' testimonies in the official Warren commissions. By changing that, I meant like changing their words, saying they said something they didn't. Michael Benson wrote that the Warren Commission received only information supplied to it by the FBI. They didn't go out and get their own information. So the FBI was like, hey, this is all we got. This is all the testimonies that we probably handpicked. Richard Schweiker, I don't know how to say that. Richard Schweiker, United States Senator and the member of the United States Senate Select Committee of Intelligence, told author Anthony Summers in 1978, "I believe that the Warren Commission was set up at the time to feed I have no idea what the heck that says. Whatever. James H. Fetzer took issue with a 1998 statement from the federal judge. Won't get that either. Alleged witness intimidation. So, other than just like them not cooperating, by covering up some evidence, we'll go to the cover up the evidence. Like I said before, they were having the Warren Commission, all the information they got from the investigation was they didn't go out and seek their own information. They only used the information provided from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, and the CIA. They tried to go CIA. CIA was being very stingy with the documents and they wouldn't share it. And they actually had to almost like, I guess, I don't know how you could sue your government, but basically equivalent to that. Numerous cease and assist, whatever, for documents, trying to get them. They finally released them and then they were incomplete. You know, basically what we see now. They were blotted out and pages missing, stuff like that. There was alleged witness intimidation. We'll go with Richard Beyer, wrote that many witnesses whose statements pointed to a conspiracy were either ignored or intimidated by the Warren Commission in the JFK. The last dissenting witness, a 1992 biography of Gene Hill, Bill Sloan, wrote that the Ariel Specter, assistant counsel for the Warren Commission, attempted to humiliate, discredit, and intimidate Hill into changing her story. Will also told Sloan that she was abused by Secret Service agents, harassed by the FBI, and was recipient of death threats. A later book by Sloan, JFK Breaking the Silence, quotes several assassination eyewitnesses as saying the Warren Commission interviews repeatedly cut short of stifled any comments casting doubt to the conclusion that the Oswald acted alone. In his book Crossfire, Jim Mars gives accounts of several people who said that they were intimidated by FBI agents or intimidated by anonymous individuals into altering or suppressing what they knew about the assassination, including Richard Carr, Aquila Clemens, Sandy Speaker, and A.J. Milliken. Mars also wrote that the Texas School Book Depository employee Joe Molina was intimidated by authorities and lost his job soon after the assassination, and that the eyewitness Ed Hoffman was warned by the FBI agent that he might get killed if he revealed what he had observed in the Daily Plaza in the day of the assassination. So, the documents obviously that were released don't show that. And they did show documented proof, and you might know of this as the Operation Mockingbird. This is where it's basically a propaganda type deal. But in the JFK file dump, they had saying at one point 40 CIA agents that infiltrated and currently working in like every mainstream media. That way they knew what was being said and they controlled the flow of news. So no alternative story about the assassination of the president was being pushed. So other than, witness intimidation, there was also an insane amount of deaths from people that witnessed. I remember when I was younger, I think my dad's a wise guy. I respect my dad. So like when I saw this fact back in the day, I was young. I didn't really research it. So when I told him that, he was like, well, you could say that about anything, but they had at least 77 people that witnessed the assassination of JFK died of mysterious circumstances within like a 10-year span. And it's hard to argue that. And like, I didn't really, like I said, I was young, so I didn't really think about it. Because my dad, he's a patriot. You know, he didn't want to think bad about it. He doesn't like conspiracy theories. But it's hard to argue with facts. But I didn't have them at the time, so I couldn't really, there was, like I said, at least 77 deaths. Allegations of mysteries or suspicious deaths of witnesses connected with the assassination of JFK originated with Penn Jones Jr. and were brought to the national attention by 1973. Jim Mars later presented a list of 103 people he believed died convenient deaths under suspicious circumstances. He noted that the deaths were grouped around investigations conducted by the Warren Commission. New Orleans DA Jim Garrison, the Senate Intelligence Committee, and the House Selection Committee on Assassination pointed out that these deaths certainly would have been convenient for anyone not wishing the truth of the JFK assassination to become public. In 2013, Richard Belzer published Hit List, an in-depth investigation on the mysterious death of witnesses to the JFK assassination that examines the deaths of 50 people linked to the assassination and claims that they were murdered as a part of a cover-up. Later, an author described the death of journalist Dorothy Kilgallen, who said that she was granted private interview with Jack Ruby as perhaps the most prominent mysterious death cited by assassination researchers. According to the author Jerome Croth, mafia figures Sam John For example, we got state hospital physician Dr. Victor Weiss later told a House Select Committee investigator that on November 25th, 3 days after the assassination, one of his fellow physicians told him that the chairman had stated before the assassination that President Kennedy was going to be killed. Dr. Weiss further reported that the chairman told him after the assassination that she had worked for Jack Ruby and that her knowledge of the assassination originated from the word in the underworld. After the assassination, Lieutenant Fruge contacted Dallas Police Captain Will Fritz regarding what he said learned blah, 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 blah. Yeah, and the CIA is known for killing people that are just inconvenient to them. My favorite one of all time, I wouldn't say favorite. It's like I'm picking fantasy football team. No, the most damning evidence of the CIA killing people that are inconvenient to them is Gary Webb. If you aren't familiar with Gary Webb or what he did, I got heartburn, sorry. He brought to light the CIA's actions in drug trafficking to fund a war in Nicaragua. He allegedly committed, the official story was he allegedly committed suicide. And the only thing about that is he shot himself in the head, back of the head twice. He had 2 bullets. I don't know. That's what the CIA can get away with. Yeah, he committed suicide. He has 2 bullets. He held 2 guns back of his head. Double tap. He wanted to make sure he got it right, you know? And that's just that one case. You know, there's a laundry list of things where were going to testify and committed suicides in their hotel room. Does that make sense? I'm about to go testify. This is a perfect time to commit suicide. The day before, after I paid for a plane ticket and everything else. It puzzles me how not. I don't even know. Because I understand how you can look at somebody and be like, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. It's just coincidence. It's just a coincidence. It's just a coincidence. But think about it. If you're a denier, how many coincidences have to happen before it's a pattern? You know what I mean? Now, I understand the crazy ones where all the world leaders and entertainers are alien race, reptilian race with goals to take over the world. Yeah, that's a weird conspiracy. Like, I understand that. But to think that greedy people will do some shady shit to make more money, that's not that far-fetched. Money does a weird stuff with people. Now we'll get into the suppression of evidence. Like I said, they ignored testimonies and evidence, especially towards Lyndon B. Johnson. After JFK was assassinated, the KGB did a full court press on getting any information they could possibly get on the new president, Lyndon B. Johnson. And after doing a dossier, I think that's what it's called, they actually said, hey, we have, after doing, well, you know, exactly what I just told you, we have documented proof that shows that Lyndon B. Johnson is directly responsible for the assassination of President Kennedy. That's exactly what they sent them. This was in the files that were just released. Never followed up. Also in the files, they had an informant state that they had documented proof that Lyndon B. Johnson was a high-ranking Ku Klux Klan member before his political career. Never followed up on it. They had a bunch, like, this is crazy, and like, I don't even know. But some assassination researchers asserted that witness statements, including a conspiracy, were ignored by the Warren Commission in 1967. Josiah Thompson stated that the commission ignored the testimony of 7 witnesses who saw gun smoke in the area of the stockade fence on the grassy knoll, as well as 8 witnesses who smelled gunpowder at the same time of the assassination. Which is huge, because if they smelled gunpowder, and then people that are trying to debunk the debunkers, they tried to get the weather, because the big deal of smelling gunpowder is if it was really fired from the 6-story window in the book depository, how did the people standing at ground level down the, what I think it was maybe 80 yards, if that, smell gunpowder? So they got like the weather, and they're like, well, if it was upwind, they could smell it. Blah, blah. Yeah, that's a lot of things. And I don't know, we'll get whatever. So that was a big deal. Jim Marrs wrote that in 1989, wrote that the commission failed to ask the testimony of witnesses on the triple overpass, whose statement pointed out shooters on the grassy knoll. There had to be shooters on the grassy knoll. Like, it's almost like it's almost a fact. Why else would like, if you watch the Superior film or watch any of the other film, after the shooting, everyone goes sprinting up to the grassy knoll. What are they doing? Like, no one never answer that. Why are they running to the grassy knoll? Because they saw a shooter. What, they were all just happened to be wrong? They just all happened to assume that? No, I'm legitimately masking. Don't say, oh, they panicked, so they ran. No, there's a fence there. If they panicked, they would have ran like to where they can get away. Not, oh, let me run to this fence on top of this hill across the street. No, I want someone to legitimately answer me that. Also, they confiscated film and photographs. Other researchers reported that witnesses who captured the assassination in photographs or in film had their cameras and or film confiscated by police or other authorities. Author Jim Marrs, documentary producer Nigel Turner presented an account of Gordon Arnold, who said that his film of the motorcade was taken by two policemen shortly after the assassination. Other witness Beverly Oliver came forward in 1970 and said that she was the Babadoosh lady, you know what I'm talking about, who is seen in the Zabuta film filming the motorcade. She said that after the assassination, she was contacted at work by two men who she thought were either FBI or Secret Service agents. According to Oliver, the men told her that they wanted to develop her film and would return it to her within 10 days. And they never returned the film, and we've never seen it. We have no idea. Now we'll get, like I said, with the CIA. Not only did they do all that, they held documents that would have helped the investigation. Maybe not in their way or in their eyes, but yeah. Richard Beyer and others have complained that many documents pertaining to the assassinations have been withheld over the years, including documents from the Warren Commission investigation, the House Select Committee on Assassinations investigation, and Church Committee investigation. These documents at one time included the president's autopsy records, and we go back to the autopsy and go back to this actual thing. 16 out of 16 doctors that were at the thing all stated on air that there was an entrance wound from the front of his neck. And the reason they knew that is because they specifically noted it down in the notes to tell them that they had to do I forgot the procedure. They used the bullet hole to do an air hole. I forgot what it's called. And they let them know. They said, hey, I had to do this, but know that there was a bullet entrance wound into the neck below the Adam's apple. Fun fact. Some documents are still not scheduled to release until 2029. I wonder what that's going to be. Many documents were released during the mid to late 90s by the Assassination Records Review Board under the President John F. Kennedy Assassination Record Collection Act of 1992. They also tampered with evidence. Some researchers have alleged that the various items of physical evidence have been tampered with, including the single bullet, also known as the magic bullet. If you don't know about the magic bullet was the first one that landed, or the second shot went through his neck from the back, allegedly. Went through his neck, hit this dude in the wrist, then it turned and hit his leg. And then when Connolly was in the hospital, it was laying on the gurney, unbroke. It was not fragmented. It was still fully in contact after going through multiple bones, which if you know anything about ballistics, it does know it didn't freaking happen. And it just happened to be laying there. I'd like to see someone argue that. Also, various bullet cartridges and fragments were messed with. The limousine is the telltale on almost every conspiracy theory that they immediately do. Because what they do, they immediately try to grab and isolate quarantine everything, grab all the evidence they can. And if stuff leaks, then we'll worry about that and we'll build a narrative around that. Hence, Las Vegas. The limousine he was in, immediately sent it off and replaced it and had it fixed. They never did an investigation on it because they did that. But like I said, in the documents released, the Surgeon General's findings in the assassination, they clearly stated that there was clearly two shooters, because the first one was shot from the bridge and it went through the president's neck under the Adam's apple And that was where the bullet hole on the windshield came from. They also tampered with the president corpse picture to try not to show the exit wound coming from the back, because remember, he got shot from the back, so that wouldn't make any sense. Another one was the convenient picture that literally has Oswald holding the rifle that he shot the president with, and his pro-communist pamphlets saying like, "Hey, I shot John F. Kennedy," which they found out that was completely photoshopped and that wasn't him. So, to close it up on who I think did it, due to the reasons why I think the person that I did it, I think it was a combination of Lyndon B. Johnson and the CIA. It's Lyndon Johnson had the most to lose, even though he had a laundry list of people that wanted him dead. His brother was really really cracking down on organized crime, and they pissed them off. He was wanting to shut the Federal Reserve down. He wanted to shut that down. JFK shit the bed on the Bay of Pigs. The Cubans wanted him dead. The Soviets probably wanted him dead. They all did, but the guy he had sitting right next to him had the most motive and the most means to be able to do that, and connections to do that. And he was shady as shit. Lyndon B. Johnson was, like I said, you think Dick Cheney was crazy? This dude is insane. Power hungry as all get out. And JFK's wife actually hired a French investigator to investigate him. She thought he did it. His brother thought he did it. Everyone thought he did it. And so did, in a 2003 Gallup poll, nearly 20% of Americans suspected he did it or was involved somehow. And Jack Ruby said, first off, they said that if they would protect him and send him to DC, he would tell the entire story on who was involved and how and why he shot Lee Harvey Oswald. And then as he was being carried away on a separate occasion, he told this person saying that if, I'm trying to find his name, the person that he was going to choose to be the vice president over Lyndon B. Johnson, and by he, I mean JFK. If he would have been the vice president, he would have never been an assassination. He's like, so what are you saying? Are you saying, Johnny? He said, the vice president, the president right now, saying Lyndon B. Johnson was the one who was behind it. And the motives that I'm saying he has, like I said, though, before I get into that, the documents that people said that they had documented proof saying he was responsible. I think there's 4 or 5 of them that were released. I'll have all the links below. Not including how he was prime suspect in the murder in the 1952 prison murders. He was wanting to, which he ended up pardoning himself when he became president. And I need to calm down. I'm going really fast. There was just a lot of inside people who all said Lyndon B. Johnson was involved. And I think that's clearly what happened. I think he had it had it in. He planned it with the Central Intelligence Agency and some of the Secret Service members, because just the handling of the whole, even that route or that parade route, I forgot the guy's name. There's two people that were in charge of planning the route, and they had 40,000 windows along the route, and they were short staffed. They didn't have enough people, so they just decided not to put anyone at the windows. Like, oh, he'll understand, whatever. But it's, I don't know. There's technically, I guess we'll never know, but there's just has to be something out there, someone out there that cares, and our government's not one of them. And like I said, there's just a consistency of just shady shit that they do, and it all follows the same path, the same timeline of stuff they do to cover stuff up. It does. It's just insane. I don't know. So I think Lyndon B. Johnson and the CIA were in cahoots to kill JFK, which led to a bunch of different things. I don't think the Vietnam War would ever happen. But I don't know. It's just a bunch of stuff. It's crazy. But I guess one thing we can get out of the JFK files that came out, the Yeti was real. They sent agents out to Nepal to go on a search mission to find the Yeti, and were in strict rules not to kill. Extract only. We found out that Hitler was alive in 1955, more than likely, in Argentina, which we already knew about the Nazi cities down there. But we allowed them to live to stop the spread of communism. You know what I'm saying? Know what I'm saying? I don't know. It's just one mystery I don't think we will ever find out. This is a weird time. Hell, just in the last month, 3 months, I felt like a bunch of conspiracy theories that I feel were way far-fetched but interesting are starting to come to light. The whole demon worship, witchcraft type deal, like Illuminati type stuff in Hollywood and elites. Look what's going on. Look at Hollywood. You got pedophile over sexual, like giving up the boot, like selling your soul basically. That's all coming to light in a way. I really want to dig into it more. I'm gonna have an episode soon that's gonna talk about that. I'm gonna be more detailed in this. There's just the JFK is just. I was trying to sum everything up in this one little episode, and I kind of flew through it. I'll get better at it. If you know anything about me, just me being on this mic is a feat, and that's the whole reason why I'm doing any of this. I want to be the best I can be. Well, I guess I just want to make a difference. I don't want to just fly through life going through the status quo, being the same. I don't know. I'll get better. I'll strive to be better. If anybody wants to talk to me, come talk to me. If you want to debate me, come debate me. If you want to just kind of... I conversate a lot better if someone is legitimately asking me questions, wanting to know. Stuff just flows out of me. But when I'm sitting here by myself, unless you've done it, you won't understand. It's a lot more difficult than you think. Try to organize your thoughts when you're just sitting here by yourself. It's wild. But it is what it is. Next episode, I'll be going over the Las Vegas shooting. I know you're probably sick of hearing about it, but I don't think most of y'all might know, most of y'all might not. I feel like everybody should know what's going on, either the incompetence of the law enforcement investigating it or the cover-up. Y'all need to know. It's a very big deal. Either way, they shit the bed on this one. And they should be exposed for it. Either way. They need to, like I said, either they're incompetent or they're covering up something to try to push an agenda that's way too far. 58 people is way too far. One person's way too far. They should answer to it. CIA, FBI, shadow government, whoever, deep state, whatever. It's time to answer for your sins. You're not bigger than anyone. It's scary. I say that, but look through the history of time. Not one person's answered for anything. Central Intelligence Agency has been caught doing enormously huge effed up stuff. Not only to us, not only to other countries, not only to illegal activities to fund other things. Not one person, nothing. I don't know. It scares me. But I don't know. If y'all like what you heard, please go rate and subscribe on iTunes. Just go to you can find us on Almost Legal Podcast, or you can find us at almostlegalpodcast.com. We also on social media, Facebook, Instagram, just search Almost Legal Podcast. Twitter's at ALP Show 17. You can also email me at almostlegalpodcast@gmail.com. And please, if you have any requests or you want to be on the show, please either social media or email me at almostlegalpodcast@gmail.com. YouTube, we're on YouTube as well. Go find us there. I'm going to get better with this stuff. I'm self-taught. I'm trying to teach myself edit and everything. I'm getting better. It's really just recording rituals and whatnot to try to make it easier on me to record, edit, and work and softball and all that other stuff. So I'm going to get better at it, and I'm going to try to get it like kind of a routine on so I can get it out quick. Try to maybe get some easy plug and play type deals. But yeah, thank you, G Millie, for the music on the show. Until then, guys, I'll see y'all next week. Y'all have a good one.
Just be sure to subscribe. And if you have a question or request for content on the show, contact Almost Legal Podcast on Twitter or email almostlegalpodcast@gmail.com.